And YouTube and Facebook are here. We are starting another live for Good Marketing. I'm so glad that you're able to join me this afternoon. This is going to be a great live. Now, before we begin, I'm Joel Montgomery, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of For Good Marketing, where we help entrepreneurs and business executives to be able to grow their impact and their reach and their business using virtual events. Now, in this live, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and this is how you can make $100,000 in 5 days using info products. Now, I know how you think. I know how people think. The reality is that many people, when they hear it's possible to make $100,000 in 5 days, they think that this is absurd. How is that possible? And the reality is that this is not theory. This is not a scam. This is a proven strategy that works, okay? This is a proven strategy that works. And in fact, there have been over $1 billion of sales that have been made using this strategy. So it's something that is not theory. It is something that it works. And we have examples of entrepreneurs that have used this strategy. We have hundreds of examples of entrepreneurs that have made over $20,000 a year using this strategy. $20,000 in 5 days using this strategy. We have dozens of examples of entrepreneurs that have made over $100,000 or even $1 million or more using this strategy in 5 days. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is going to be a lot of fun. And make sure you stay till the end, because I'm going to be telling you about the 2 key ingredients that you need to be able to leverage this strategy for your organization. Got it? So let's get started. The big question: how do you make $100,000 in 5 days with info products? Well, you need 2 things. Number 1, you need an info product. So we're going to talk about what that is. And secondly, you need some kind of launch strategy. So we're going to talk about what a launch strategy is and what we like to do here at For Good Marketing. So let's start with info products. What is an info product in the first place? Now, an info product is, the word info product comes from information product, okay? Info product, information product. And an information product is going to be something like an ebook, like an online course, okay? And it's something that takes your audience from one state to another. And no, I'm not talking about moving from New York to Florida, okay? It's not that kind of state. The reality is that all of us in our lives, we have problems in our lives and we have dreams for our lives, okay? Everybody on this earth, almost 8 billion of us, we have problems in our lives and we have dreams for our lives. Got it? Now, what an info product does is it helps us to move from one state to another. So we're able to move from having one pain point, one problem, and then being able to find a solution to that problem. Or we have a dream for our life and we're able to move from one state, which is I'm not able to do what I want to do, to the other state, whereas finally I'm able to reach that dream that I have. So an info product is able to help people have a transformation where they're either solving a problem that they have or reaching a dream that they desire. Okay, so it's all about problems and dreams. This is about helping people, right? So that's kind of the basis for an info product. And let me give you some examples of info products. So the first is, for instance, an ebook. Okay, an ebook. So for instance, let's imagine that you are having trouble with your habits, right? You've got a lot of bad habits. Let's be honest. We all have some bad habits, right? Well, let's say that you've got some bad habits and you're trying to figure out, how do I create good habits? So let's say that you go to Amazon and you purchase the Kindle book of Atomic Habits, which is a fantastic book on habits. If you haven't already read it, I highly recommend it. So that is a simple info product. It's an ebook, right? Or you could purchase the audible version, so the audio version. That is a info product. You can learn something through that. that's going to help you with that pain that you're feeling, where you've got a bunch of bad habits and you're trying to figure out, how do I create good habits? Okay. So that's one example of an info product. Another example would be, let's say that you're married and, everything started out great in the beginning, but slowly over time, you and your spouse have kind of been drifting apart, and you don't have that connection that you once had in the early stages of your marriage. Well, that's the pain point. We're feeling disconnected, right? And so what is it that you can do in order to solve that problem? Well, you can purchase an online course called Relate Well, which happens to be from one of our clients, Dr. Rick Marks, which it's a phenomenal course. You can purchase that course that will help you heal your marriage by learning the secrets to healthy communication. Okay. So it's an online course that takes people from one state of frustration, difficulty in their marriage to another state, which is they're able to heal their marriage by learning how to actually communicate, which is the top predictor of divorce. Okay. So that's a second example of an info product. Our third example is, let's say, I know that a lot of people in this season of life have left their jobs. And so let's say that you're looking for a new job and you're trying to find, and you're in the process of trying to find a new job. So you're looking to negotiate your new salary. And so what do? You go to masterclass.com. Probably you've heard about Masterclass. It's a membership site where you have some of the top leaders in different industries, in different segments, from sports to music to art to whatever, where you can learn from. So these are online courses, but it's a membership site. So you have access to lots of different mini courses through that. So there's one about negotiation. So you want to negotiate your salary, you go to Masterclass, you pay your money, and you're able to take that course to solve the problem that you have, to get prepared for that negotiation that you're going to have for your salary. So there you have three different examples of info products: ebooks, online courses, and membership sites like Masterclass. So those are different types of info products. There's lots of different others that are out there, but hopefully you get an understanding of what we mean when we're talking about an info product. Now, the great thing about info products, these are powerful, powerful tools that you need to have in your organization. And because they have tremendous advantages over traditional products and services. And I'll tell you why. Number one is low startup costs. Because when you create a digital product, it's significantly less expensive than a physical product. Why? Well, number one, you don't have raw materials, right? You don't have to go and, let's say you are a bakery and you've got to go and purchase flour and sugar and all of these other yeast and all of these other things. Those are raw materials. You don't really have raw materials for a digital product. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you don't need huge manufacturing facilities. You don't need huge offices to be able to produce your digital product because it is digital. Right? So the startup costs for digital products and info products is significantly smaller than physical products and services. So in terms of cost, it's so much cheaper. So that's the first reason why info products are so powerful. Secondly is high margins. And this is related to the first, because when you have a physical product, again, you have to pay for raw materials, you have to pay for staff. In the restaurant industry, typically you're spending 60% of your margin solely on the cost of the food and on your staff. That's a huge amount of money that you're spending, and you don't get that money back. So that's just kind of par for the course. It's something necessary in that industry. Well, when you're selling info products or digital products, you have much, much lower costs. And so your margins tend to be much, much, much higher. And the other thing is, because you can replicate, once you have created an online course, for instance, you can replicate that infinitely, because you don't have additional costs associated with that, because it's digital. You can make as many copies of that as you want. You can sell one version to hundreds, thousands, millions of people, and it's able to replicate without any additional costs. So you have low startup costs and high margins. Info products are powerful. Now, a third reason is location independence. We live in a globalized world, right? We all know that because of the pandemic, more and more there's these connections around the world, and so it's very easy nowadays to be able to service clients that are not just in your city, that are not just in your state or even your country. You can provide services to people across the globe. And when you have an info product, it can instantaneously go from one side of the world to the other. But if you have a physical product, obviously you're limited. You can still send things. You can still send something from New York to Paris. You can still send something from New York to Tokyo. But there's a cost associated with that, and there's a time element associated with that. When you have an info product, you can service somebody across the world instantaneously. Now, another one of the incredible advantages to being able to have a info product is that you can scale time. Now, what do I mean by scaling time? Well, what I mean by that is when you are in giving a service in the physical location, right, you are limited by your time, right? You can only service that individual. You only have so much time that you're able to service people, right? You're limited by your time. Whereas when you have a digital product, it's possible for you to be able to service multiple people at the same time. So you can take 1 hour in the digital world and you can serve many, many people in that 1 hour. Whereas if you're in the physical world, you're only able to serve, one or a few people. So the ability to be able to service a lot more people with the same amount of time is profound. So there you have it. You've got some of the huge advantages to an info product. And to summarize, we've got low startup costs, high margins, we have location independence, and then this ability for you to be able to scale your time. Now, we love info products, but the reality is there's a downside. And the downside is that they don't sell themselves, right? You can have the greatest online course or greatest ebook in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it, it's kind of useless, right? And so that's why you need to take your info product and you need to combine it with a launch strategy. That's how you get to 100K in 5 days. An info product plus a launch strategy. So let's talk about what a launch strategy actually is, okay? Now, in its most basic form, a product launch is a strategy for generating interest in a particular product. So let me give you several examples. Let's turn to the area of movies. I love movies. So what happens to get the word out for a movie? Well, typically we begin to see some trailers, right? That begins to generate buzz, and those trailers can happen over even a year before that movie is released. I think of like Star Wars, for instance, that has a huge fan base. They'll release several trailers leading up to when that movie is actually released, and they do that to kind of generate that buzz, to get excitement going about about that movie. So that's kind of one of the starting ways that they will begin the launch strategy of a movie, the trailers. Then as you get closer to the launch date, to the premiere, you have interviews that the actors will do. You've got articles that begin to come out, and then you've got those billboard posters and everything that go out to kind of drive that excitement for that release date. And then you've got the premiere, which is not open to everybody. It's usually just the key actors, and they're all dressed up nicely. And so you've got these series of events that lead up to a release of the movie kind of in the theaters, right? So that process that all of us have experienced many, many, many times, that is a type of launch strategy. Okay. Now let me give you another example in the world of movies. And this is a TV series, and this is called The Chosen. Now, if you're not familiar with The Chosen, it is the highest grossing, or the highest, how do I put this? It is the largest crowd-funded media project in the world. They've been able to raise the most amount of money. Now, the creator, Dallas Jenkins, he started this whole process by creating a film for his church called The Shepherd. Okay. And, they had a reasonable sized church. They created this Christmas film, and they premiered it and, showed it for the church, and, everybody loved it. And then they put it on Facebook, and then the game changed. Because on Facebook, The Shepherd has been viewed over 100 million times. That tells you something about the power of social media, right? 100 million times this short Christmas film has been viewed on Facebook. Now, Dallas began to wonder, I think we've got something here. I think you or I, if we put something out on the internet and it was viewed over 100 million times, I think we would kind of feel like we've got something here. We struck a nerve. Well, they did that. And so they decided, we believe that there is an opportunity here. And so they created a pilot called The Chosen. They got some investors to be able to create one episode of that. And then they decided to go crowdfunding. So they took that pilot as kind of a proof of concept. They put it out there, and over 16,000 donors gave a total of $10.2 million for the first season of The Chosen. And then the second season, they grossed over $10 million. They raised over $10 million as well. So this is a TV series, but it had kind of a similar process where in the beginning it was they didn't know what they had, but they had an approach of crowdfunding, getting the buzz out. So they got the pilot, and then they began to get excitement going for what this series about Jesus could be all about. So that's another kind of strategy that they used to be able to do a launch. Now, my last example I want to give you is all about Apple. Now, we all know about Apple, don't we? Apple is really, really good about launches, right? So what typically happens around fall time certainly here in the United States, is that during the year there is, the rumor mill begins, where you hear, oh, the next iPhone is going to have this, or it's going to have that. And so there are stories that are out there, articles that talk about, this particular writer who has, deep connections within Apple's supply chain. They figured out this, and this. And so what they began to do is they begin to kind of leak out information, and that begins to kind of generate some buzz. And then we all know that come September, there's going to be a launch event, and they always release a new iPhone, and they make it look beautiful and look like whatever you had before is pure trash. And yet the new one is amazing. And what do they always say? It always has a better battery, right? And it always has a better camera. So we could summarize their launch event. It always talks about those two things. But they are masters, and this really comes back to Steve Jobs. They're masters at creating this desire, right? Nobody needs an iPhone necessarily. I mean, we could all use regular phones, but they create this desire in people to be able to want the next greatest thing, right? And so they start with the rumor mill. They go into the launch event in September. Then, typically a week later or so, they've got pre-orders. So the digital launch, the pre-orders. So you put on your information so that you can get you can order your iPhone online. And then you've got the physical launch, which is the day when that phone is actually available in the Apple stores. And you've got crazy people that will spend 1, 2, 3 days waiting in line so that they can be one of the first people to be able to get an iPhone, right? So there's another launch strategy. So two examples from television and movies, and this example from Apple, the reality is that there are launch events happening all around us. And maybe you don't understand it by that name necessarily, but that's what's happening, is that they're creating buzz, they're getting excitement for some kind of product or service that's going to be released. Now, at For Good Marketing, we specialize in digital product launches. Okay. And we use a simple strategy here to be able to do that. And I'm going to tell you about the strategy. So we build authority, we grow the audience, we warm up the audience, and then we host a launch event. And so I'm going to talk about what happens in each one of these steps. So first, build authority. Okay. Now, why is authority important? Or you can think about this as credibility. Now, this is a really interesting time in the world today, because, back 20 years ago, before the internet, when you had a piece of paper from a university that said you were a college graduate, that brought a level of credibility, a level of authority with it, right? Now, I would argue that college degrees are a commodity. So many people have college degrees today that it's not really something that distinguishes one person from another. Now, you've got people that are going to graduate school, they're going to get their PhD or their doctorate because they're trying to distinguish themselves in the old way. The truth is that now you don't necessarily need a college degree. What you need to be able to create authority or credibility, what you need is knowledge. And people are able to distinguish whether or not you have knowledge. Okay. And so I would argue it's less important kind of what the degree you have is, and it's more important the knowledge that you possess. And more, I think we're going to see this playing out. Now, how do we take this idea of authority or credibility, and how do we work with our clients to be able to create that authority? Well, we do that in several ways. So firstly, one of the strategies that we like to use is doing like this. We will work with our experts to be able to put on regular lives talking about a particular topic that they are knowledgeable in. Now, the reality is that anybody can talk for 5 minutes. Anybody can talk probably for 8 or 10 minutes, but not a lot of people can talk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour plus on a particular topic on a regular basis, right? That's a lot harder to do. And so what you can do is simply by standing up, getting in front of a camera, telling what you know on a regular basis, you are beginning to establish authority, because you can tell if somebody's making something up or if they actually know what they're talking about, right? So that's the first thing, is that we have those regular lives that are going on a weekly basis. The next thing we do is we cut those lives down into small videos that we can then put on a daily basis out on social media. And they will talk about different kind of nuggets, different elements, different ideas from your larger topic or your larger live. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're putting out content, high quality content on a regular basis. And that shows everybody in social media that this organization, this individual, they know what they're talking about. So that's kind of the first piece of establishing authority or building authority. Now, the second thing is to grow the audience, because the truth is that there's a lot of people out there that they have authority, but they have no audience, right? And this is really kind of distinct in kind of the old world versus the new world. So the offline world versus the online world. So you've got professors, you've got authors, you've got many people that have a lot of knowledge, but they have no audience, right? And I would argue that there's a lot of influencers out there that have a lot of followers, but they don't necessarily have a lot of knowledge. They can fake it, but they don't have a lot of knowledge. So what we want to do is to make sure that we are taking somebody who has authority, who has deep knowledge, and we're helping to build their audience so that people view them as an expert, not just offline, but online as well. And so the way that we do that, there's multiple strategies. So one is simply having what's called a lead magnet. We have something free that we're able to give to a particular audience that provides value. And so in exchange for this free, free guide, free assessment, it could be lots of different things. They give their phone number or their email, right? And so there's an exchange that's taking place in order to do that. So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing that we do is simply by distributing the content that we're putting out, because whereas in the early days of Facebook, you could make a post and everybody that was following you would see that post. Well, we all know that's not the case anymore, because there's the famous algorithm, and the algorithm decides what to post and what to show everybody, what not to show everybody. So, I've seen estimates that anywhere from 1 to maximum of like 10% of your followers are actually seeing what you're posting. And the reason is because Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, all of these places, they are businesses. They're there to make money, right? And so they've built this huge following, but they're also there to make a living, to make money. So what you have to do is you have to pay to play. You can have great content. And if you just put that content out there, but you don't pay Facebook and Instagram or YouTube to be able to distribute that content, then the reality is that you're going to grow very, very slowly. You can certainly grow, but it's going to take a long time. The quick way to be able to grow is that you have got to pay them and be smart in the way that you're doing that, to be able to attract the right people to see that particular content. And there's a lot of strategy that goes into that, but that's kind of the simple idea, is that you pay them to distribute your content to people that would be interested in it. So those are kind of two different ways that we will grow our audience. Now, the third step that we have in order to have a launch is to warm up the audience. And we talk about this idea of temperature in terms of in terms of the relationship that a prospect, that a lead, that a customer has with your organization, right? So a cold lead would be somebody who has never heard of your organization ever before, right? They just clicked on an ad or something and they come and they see you. Whereas a hot lead, or a hot lead is someone who, they know who you are, they love your organization, they love you, and they are chomping at the bit to be able to buy something that you have, because they believe so much in you, they trust you. So in that way, we talk about temperature, right? What's the temperature of the leads? Now, it's important, if you're going to have a launch, to be able to have as warm of leads as possible. Sure, you can drive cold traffic, right? But the warmer that your audience is, the better response you're going to have for your launch. So there's a lot of things that we can do in order to warm up those leads, to get people ready to be able to consume the content that you're putting out there. And there's a variety of different ways we can do that. You can do that simply by putting out good content. You can do that by email sequences, lots of different ways to do that. But I don't want you to miss this point of the importance of not just having a large email list, but actually having an email list that has very warm, or if not hot, leads on it, right? That's very, very valuable. So I would argue that it's more valuable for you to have a smaller list of warmer leads than a larger list of colder leads, right? So the temperature of your leads, of your audience, of your email list is incredibly important. Now, the last thing that we do is that we actually host a launch event. And there's different strategies that we employ in order to do this. What we like to do a lot is a 4-part video series, okay? And what we do in that video series is, on the first video, and this can do live, we can do this live as well, is the first video or live, we present an opportunity, right? Something that is maybe contrary to what people believe. It's something new and fresh. It gets people excited about an opportunity that they weren't necessarily aware about. So that's the first piece of content. The second piece of content is the transformation. So you talk about what that transformation looks like. What did it look like on the other side of that opportunity? The third piece of content is the blueprint. It's kind of the high level idea, the high level map of how you go about doing that, right? And then the final video is a sales video where you say, okay, I've told you about the opportunity. I've told you what it likes to have this transformation. I've given you kind of the high level blueprint of how you're able to do this. Now, you can go and try to do this on your own, or you can come with us and I will help you along the way. And you can, sell a variety of different things using this strategy. But it's something that's very, very powerful, because what you're doing is you can take cold leads at the beginning of that event, people that have never heard about your organization, and you can move and increase the temperature so they begin to see, number one, this organization, this individual is giving me a ton of value, right? It's not just sales. You're actually giving real valuable content to people. You're giving them micro transformations in that content. So they're saying, wow, like I didn't pay anything for this event, and this person, this individual, this organization is giving me a ton of value. I like this, right? And so people begin to get more interested. They begin to trust more. So you give more content, give more content, give more content. And as you go through that process, obviously, many people are going to decide, you know what, thank you for the content that you gave me. That's enough for me. Or, and then you've got a percentage of those people that are going to say, hey, if the free content was this good, I can't imagine what it is to have the paid content. And so sign me up. I want to do it. And so this is a simple but really proven strategy. And if you take a step back, it's not that different than the traditional movie launch that you see. It's all about creating buzz, creating awareness, getting excitement going. And that's really what we love to do with our clients here, because it is so powerful. And so when you are taking that launch strategy and you're combining it with a digital product, it is a combination that really, really can explode in growing the awareness of your organization, in being able to increase your sales, in increasing your impact. And so that is why we love virtual events, because of the scalability and also the ability to just impact so many people in a really scalable and efficient way. So you may be thinking, okay, info product, I can do that. Launch strategy, I can do that. Look, I hope if you are able to do this on your own, hey, more power to you. I hope that you can do it. I hope this information is valuable to you. But the reality is that there are a lot of intricacies. If you go below the surface of the strategy, there's a lot of intricacies to be able to make this happen. Now, what we do with our clients is we can really start this process of starting a launch with very little time on their part. So all they really need is 3 hours. They need a couple of hours to be able to create, to record high quality content. And then they need an additional hour to be able to do some work with. So it's really just all we need is 3 hours a week of their time. Whereas on our side, what do? So we edit the videos. We make sure that those videos are going out on all the social media platforms. We handle all the graphic design. We create a landing page. We create a website. We're able to kind of create a sales funnel. We're able to create all the copy for the ads, for the landing page, for all the email sequence. We're able to make sure that we're able to bring all of the right technology and connect all the technology in place. We're able to be able to create each of the videos that are necessary. So we've got to format, work with the expert to be able to create the content of those videos. We're able to sequence those videos in the right way. We're able to, in some cases, be able to create the info product alongside the expert if that's necessary. There's a lot of things below the surface that's necessary to be able to do this. And so what we love to do is to be able to come alongside experts and organizations that have something really of value to be able to give the world and say, hey, You do what you do best. You've got this knowledge, right? You've got this expertise. Focus on that. Let us handle all of the ins and outs of how you actually create a digital launch. We can be your partner on that side. You just focus on what you're good at. And so if that's something that you are interested in, you realize, you know what? I've known that the world is shifting from offline to online. I can see that. I can see that there's more and more of these digital businesses that are brewing. And we want to be able to do that for our organization, or I want to do that for myself. Please reach out to us. We would love to be able to have a conversation with you and talk more deeply about what you're dealing with and to share our expertise with you. But I hope that this has been valuable for you. Whatever you do, I want you to remember that info products are scalable. They have high margins. They scale your time. If you build a business around info products, it's going to be much, much more efficient than a physical business, right? And whatever you're selling, whether it's digital, whether it's physical, what have you, you also need to have a launch strategy. You need to have some way that you're generating buzz, you're generating excitement for your particular product or service. And once you do that, you will have much, much better results on the other side. So thank you for taking the time to be able to spend with me this Friday. We've got more content coming your way. Every Friday, we're going to have a new live talking about virtual events, talking about the digital world and how you can leverage digital marketing to improve your business and your impact. So until next Friday, hope you have a great weekend. Take care.